I'm going to shut down the video for a minute.
Yeah, sure. All right. Hello and welcome everyone to the first self-inquiry session that I'll be hosting here on Daily Freedom School. My name's Anne. I just love to talk about non-dual awareness, and tonight we'll be talking about why does God allow suffering? So fasten your seatbelts. I hope you've all landed safely on the stream. You are safe here. So let's get right into it. With this lesson, let's start with an analogy. It's important that because in this example, we seem to have forgotten what we truly are, we need to make some sort of concept to get back to what we truly are. If we never forgot what we truly are, we didn't have to create a concept to get back to it. But in this example, we're going to use an analogy of what we truly are, infinite awareness, as we're going to call it, or infinite consciousness, as like a screen, this open, empty space that knows no borders, an open, empty screen. And you're welcome to listen to this recording as a meditation with your eyes closed, or you can watch. We'll have a Q&A session at the end. So imagine what we truly are is this open screen, like as if you're watching a movie. And what happened was we have this seeming amnesia. And all of a sudden, just like when we're watching a movie, there appears to be different objects on the screen in the movie, in the play. Cars going by, different relationships, people, things, houses, objects. When we go up to the screen and we touch it, we find that there's just the screen. When the movie's over and the play is finished, all that is left is the screen. So if we can keep this in the back of our minds while we do tonight's lesson, it'll be about half an hour, and then about 10 minutes of Q&A after. You're welcome to join the next sessions as well. This will be weekly on Wednesdays at 6:30 p.m. Pacific time. And yeah, if you find this interesting, you're welcome to join a coaching course with me. Anyway, let's begin. This is an example of a question that maybe you might be thinking of, but it's just an example. So the question is, and this is in regards to our seeming yellow brick road of our spiritual development, it seems, and these problems we have in our lives and how we try to solve them and go along the spiritual path and turn within, when we realize that maybe looking without for external help is, and maybe even religion isn't working for us any longer. The story is that we turn within, and awareness, what we truly are, is like this open, empty space that knows no resistance, that is looking back at itself in complete peace. And I believe that this is what humanity is yearning for, is just to be able to be completely peaceful. And here you'll hear me say a lot that true health is inner peace. So in regards to this thing about awareness, So that awareness is turning back on itself. This process of going within, when we realize, when we're going to go on this non-dual path, that we have to, let the external world be laid down for some moment within our path. This awareness that needs to look back at itself and face itself fully in the mirror. This is our illusory self, if you will, self-inquiring now. What am I? The great question, who am I? That really leads to peace. This illusory self turning back to come into existence of the mind and then its body. You might think it just doesn't feel right, that awareness would, this turning back on itself to go within. It may feel like this situation, like, for example, parents saying to a child, okay, just get out of there, you're gone. I want nothing to do with you anymore. It sort of feels like that in some way, and I can't speak for you, but I can speak for myself. Turning away from all these external things may feel like that, but it's really important if you want to come on this journey with us, and we stick together and join in the light, that we do turn away from the external world for a little while. So the answer to this is this turning away from the external world, or what we think the external world is. It means more the ceasing to know itself as it is, and seeming as a result to know something other than it is, such as an object, other, or external world. So how can awareness seem to overlook itself and as a result know something that is not itself, such as an object? So in most cases, because a lot of us, I think most of us have gone to traditional schools, and we learned as a child that we are located somewhere in this body, and that everything outside of our body is other than us. It is an object outside of us. Like, this is a heart, and this is a face, and this is a scarf, and so on. We learn to separate things and name them. So, to do so, infinite awareness, what we truly are, has seemed to become a separate subject. And it does this by identifying with the body. But pure consciousness, what we truly are, actually doesn't identify itself with the body. So the separate self, it has to rise in the form of a thought. And it is that thought that identifies awareness with the body. And as a result, awareness seems to become finite. So what we truly are has seemed to become finite in a body separate from the world. And a finite subject, it is that apparent finite subject that can then know something that is other than infinite awareness, that is a finite object. Now, all this happens in the imagination. Awareness never truly ceases to know or be itself alone. So in this case, in this example, the questioner might say, you're right. If you've explored non-duality or gone on the path within, it might seem like, and you can let us know in the comments wherever you're watching this, and I endeavor to reply, that it never truly turns back on itself and forgets itself or overlooks itself. So it takes the shape of a thought and a feeling which seems to overlook infinite awareness. Just as the screen, when you're watching a movie, takes the shape of the images that seems to veil the screen. So at an absolute level, there's no real veiling or ignoring or forgetting awareness, just as there is no real veiling of a screen when you're watching a movie. And in this case, the question, I might say, it feels like the forgetting is more on the illusory side. So if you've self-inquired for a while, you may feel like, yes, I know this, there is this sense of oneness. And yes, I know in my experience that it seems to be illusory now. You know, it seems to be, I know at some level, this separation between me and another person, or me and another animal, or nature, or another object, it starts to feel illusory. And in this example, the teacher would say, exactly. That's why in India, they don't talk about ignorance. They talk about the illusion of ignorance, this illusory amnesia. There is no real ignorance. Why is there duality? Why does it seem like we are separate? There is no duality. Why is there duality? With the very why question, we create the duality whose cause we are seeking. Duality is created in that moment with the thought that believes it is real. Why are there pink elephants? With that thought, you imagine that there are, and you simultaneously imagine that there are pink elephants, and at the same time ask why. Why are there pink elephants? Because you ask about them. Why is there duality? Because we ask about it. There isn't duality. There's no separation. But consciousness, but for consciousness, yeah, there's no duality. When we return what we truly are, to what we truly are, there is no world of separation, no world of duality. So infinite consciousness, what we really are, only ever knows itself. It is that infinite consciousness that rises, infinite consciousness rises as a finite mind by identifying itself with a temporary body that seems to know something other than itself. But that is an illusion. There is no finite consciousness located within the fence, this imaginary fence, this flesh as a body. So this is an illusion that we think we live in a body. There is no finite consciousness. There is no mind. There is no real mind. The finite mind is made out of infinite consciousness. And there's a beautiful example that we can use. The three states that we all go through, no matter what religion, no matter what sexual preference, no matter our gender, no matter anything, which is totally unifying, is the three states that we all go through every single day. Deep sleep, the dream state, and the waking state. And we're talking more about, there's a beautiful metaphor to use to unlock these seemingly hidden keys within our mind to experience and know what we truly are. But let's continue with this lesson. So when we think we're a body, this very thought is actually made out of infinity. And at the end, we realize we find ourselves in everyone and in everything, everywhere. So another way of saying this, that the finite mind is made out of infinite consciousness, that the finite mind is only a finite mind, a separate limited self, from the illusory point of view of a finite mind. So we cannot blame infinite consciousness we cannot blame infinite consciousness for giving birth to duality. Consciousness is innocent. So now, infinite awareness, or God, is not responsible for the suffering of the world. This is another way of saying it. This is the answer to the question that has perplexed religious people for centuries. Why does God allow suffering? This is the deep answer to that question. God does not know suffering. And this is, of course, intolerable to most people to hear because it strikes so profoundly at the roots of our beliefs about ourselves and about infinite awareness, or God. But it is the true answer that God does not know suffering. God, or infinite awareness, does not know a separate self or a separate world. And then in this example, the questioner might say, someone who has been along this non-dual path, that does fit with my own experience of suffering. And peeling away the layers by looking at the pain and allowing that pain to rise and the feelings dissolving over a period of time. And what do you find at the heart of suffering? You might say, I find that I was the cause of my own suffering. Me, this illusory self. So yes, but underneath that, underneath this illusory I, which at the heart of suffering, what's underneath this I, underneath the heart of suffering? Where is the suffering then, underneath this illusory I, when we self-inquire? You may say, I don't know, because it's not there, even though I may seem to cry. So what do we call the absence of suffering then? What is the common name for it? It's happiness or wellness. So exactly that. You go deeply into any suffering, including your deepest depression. If you go deeply into it, you go all the way down through it with divine intelligence, which we'll be talking about a lot more here on these self-inquiry stream joinings. Sorry. And it requires an amount of vulnerability and courage to be able to do this, a willingness to be honest and connect with this beautiful divine intelligence that we were all given equally. When we partner with this divine intelligence and we go all the way down through our deepest depression, we find happiness at its origin. And it's true. And it can be true for you. All the feelings, can you believe it, are happiness manifesting in some form or another. Even hatred is a manifestation of love. If you trace the hatred back all the way beyond the separate thought of I, you'll find love at its origin. So a way that we can do this together is by taking 4 questions of any situation that may be stressing you out. And stress, ultimately, every single disease that we know of is caused by this stress. And this stress, in terms of self-inquiry, means that we have seemed to become a finite self. And when we seem to become a finite self within a body, this belief, and it's only a belief, causes stress. The over-identification with living inside a body, inside some illusory fence we call the flesh, creates stress because we're over-identifying with something that is illusory and not identifying with what we truly are, which is made out of pure consciousness, pure spirit, the open, empty space where any sound, where anything, where any picture, image, circumstance, situation can just flow through and be what it is. And we know no resistance. Imagine that. So let's use these 4 questions. And if you're watching, you'll have to think of something that is stressing you out right now. But I'm just going to use an example. I'm going to use an example of a thought. And here we only talk about the mind because we're doing mind healing. Well, the truth, we have to look to the mind. I'm going to use this example of a thought. And we watch our thoughts really carefully here. Here's a thought. This person is not loving. It's a thought. It's a belief. And when we inquire about these thoughts and beliefs that we have, it's the most powerful thing that consciousness can do, is change its mind. So we're going to change our minds together now. Here's a thought. This person is not loving. And you can write this down if you wish. I found it really helpful along my journey. And write it down if you have a pen and paper. I always suggest if you're going to come to these classes to bring a pen and paper with you. Question number 1. Is it true? This person is not loving. Is it true? You might say, yes, it is true. I think it's true. Question number 2. Can you absolutely know that it is true? And in fact, when we go deeply, and again, if you have any questions, we can do this again. But you can't absolutely know that this person you seem to be interacting with is not loving, because you don't know that person's heart, and you don't know their life, you don't know their story. Even in the deepest, darkest people, love has touched them to some degree. So when we truly get down with ourselves, we can't absolutely know that this person in our life is not absolutely loving. Question number 3. How do you react? What happens when you believe that thought of this person is not loving? And we have to be courageous and honest here, and vulnerable, it seems, if we want to do this work of self-inquiry. And we might say, let me think, when I think a person isn't loving, I feel like I can't trust them. I'm suspicious of them. I don't want to share things with them fully. These things, you know. That's what happens when I think this. And take it for your own situation. And then the 4th question, the last one, is what would you be without this thought? What would I be without the thought, this person is not loving? Well, in that circumstance, if I didn't believe that, I would be more open. If I clearly saw this person as they were, without this thought in my mind, I would be more open. It was like as if I was meeting someone new. I would be friendly, and I would be loving, you know? And then we get to the last step where we turn this all around. And this is going back to what we said at the beginning of this lesson. This turning within, this turning what we seem to experience externally, turning it around and facing it fully, which is facing ourselves fully. And this is the way we get to experience, you know, immortality, if you will, or eternal peace, and transcend the fear of death, it seems. So here we go. We have to turn the statement around. So whatever statement you had at the start, this person is not loving. Oh, I just got a notification the meeting will end in 10 minutes. So we're nearly done. Okay, take a deep breath, breathe. Now I have to say, instead of this person is not loving, I am not loving. Oof. I am not loving. Okay. Is it true? We'll go through the 4 questions again. Is it true I am not loving? I might say, yeah, you know, in that moment, I wasn't very loving. Can I absolutely know that it's true? That I am not loving? No, I can't absolutely know that, because I have been loving. I love my family. I love animals. I love nature. So I can't absolutely know that I'm not loving. Question number 3, how do I react when I'm not loving? What happens when I'm not loving? I feel guilty after. You know, when I go to bed at night, I feel guilt for the way that I acted. What happens when I'm not loving? You know, I get frustrated with people. I get angry. And I beat myself up for it. And the last question, who would I be without this thought? I am not loved. I feel like I would be open to anything, any situation. I would feel peace without this thought, this fake belief. And I would be loving to other people. And so I hope this inspires people who comes across this video, that you can use these 4 questions about any thought that comes across your mind during the day. And if you're willing and brave and courageous to turn that thought around and face it fully, that you can be the love in this world, no matter what the circumstance. So I will end this lesson here. It's been a bit quiet tonight, but I hope that we will see some more people. Thank you, Zach, for joining. Zach, one of my biggest fans, I believe. Yeah, we'll see you guys next week, Wednesday, for another self-inquiry joining session. And if you have any questions, please write them down so we can talk about them next time. And in true unnameable space style, we always say, remember that the only thing that's real is love. And any fearful thought is an illusion.
Just a dream.
We're living in a dream. Beautiful. Until next time. See you guys.